Okay, script for remotely conducted open meetings. Good morning. This open meeting of the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee is convening by video conference pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. All supporting materials have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. This meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that other people may be able to see you, and take care not to share your device's screen. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Please silence all phones and devices. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Use the raise the hand feature in the Zoom to indicate that you'd like to offer a comment. The chair will call on those who have raised their hands in the order they are raised. All questions should be directed to the chair. If you're not able to participate in the remote meeting, you may also submit comments to the Coastal Resilience Coordinator, Leah Hill, and request that they be read into the meeting record. Her email is LHILL@nantucket-ma.gov. Okay, so I am the chair. I am Peter Brace, chair of the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Okay. Doug Rose.
Here.
Gary Beller.
Here.
Tim Brain.
Here.
Sarah Boyce.
Here.
Christy Kickham.
Here.
Jen Carberg.
Here.
Matt Fee.
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Leah Hill.
Here.
Okay. Anticipated speakers on the agenda? Seeing none. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okay. So. Is there any public comment not related to what's on this agenda? Okay. Good morning, Joanna.
Morning.
Okay. We'll move on to number 4, generate ideas and answers for the communication and outreach questions from your packet. I give it over to Leah.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen and just bring up those questions. All right, can you all see that? Great. So these are just questions that Florence had asked at the last meeting, and we thought that we should kind of work these out this meeting so that we can start moving forward with our communication outreach plan for homeowners. So the first question that she had wanted you all to think about was, what are the coastal resilience topics that the community needs to better understand or know more about, and then kind of prioritize those. Does anybody have any?
Sarah?
I do.
Wait, Sarah and then Joanna.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you, Leah. So I have a kind of taking a step back from this is I had a question about definitely we need to make priorities, but then for each thing that we want to communicate about, I think that the answer is sort of different, right? And by that, I mean, so I think based on things we've talked about, just kind of being in the community and talking to the community, there are a bunch of different things that have to happen. And I don't know how to prioritize them other than they all sort of have to happen. So like, there needs to be a basic understanding. We got to be better about messaging out the basic understanding of what's currently happening with climate change impacts for the island. Because a lot of people are, not a lot, but there are people who are discussing it like it's a faraway topic. So then it doesn't get prioritized for funding because it's a faraway topic, for example. But then there are people who are already on board with that, who then the next level of messaging to me is more about the priorities, like certain projects. So I think, like, so then any new project that comes up that we need support for, then running through these questions would be helpful. Like, who's the target audience for this knowledge? What timing does it look like to get that out? So I guess that's where I'm at, is like, it's hard to think about what the priorities are without talking about like, what are we our action and what are we doing? But and then running through the questions for each specific topic. Yes.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Joanna?
I think what I'm saying is adjacent to Sarah. I think the number one priority for us to be talking about is the timeline, right? So I think that before we can really talk about, I think the fact that the plan exists and the timeline and the priorities are what we should be talking about. And I think that, to Sarah's point, the community doesn't really understand the timeline. They don't understand that things are happening now, and they don't understand that things need to ramp up significantly over even the next 10 years. So I feel like we are best served by starting to talk about the timeline, like what's happening in 2024, what's happening in 2025, what's happening in 2026. That the timeline's now.
Okay, anyone else? Christy?
Yeah, I mean, those are good points. I think, Sarah hit it on the nail on the head as far as, people thinking about this as very far out years. But I think the sooner that you capture the public's interest and share information on current projects that are happening now, it'll also legitimize funding as we go forward, and people will have a better understanding on even that part of it, which, as we know, is critical.
Thanks, Christy. And before I go to Doug, I want to say I agree with Christy and Sarah. And I think that the timeline is the topic, because that's gonna tell people what we're doing right now. That is the topic, and then other topics will come after that once people hopefully realize what we're doing in the next 10 years or 20 years, what we're doing right now. Okay, Doug.
Thanks, Peter. I love all those comments. Agree with everyone that I've heard. I've been taking notes as I've been listening. I tried to put together my own thoughts on how to follow up on last meeting and the conversation we had there, which I thought was great. And I think reading through my notes now, they pretty much line up with what everyone else has said. I think if Florencia and the communications office is looking for like just a crystal clear answer back to who the target audience is, my general feeling is that it is extremely broad, in the sense that eventually climate change will impact every Nantucket resident to more or lesser degree. So we really can't be overly discreet in how we target the overall message. Not only because there are issues that relate to, for instance, how to improve the resilience of your own property. That pretty much is a universal message to any property owner. But even more broadly, if we're talking about any bylaw that's coming forward for voter approval, it's going to have to pertain to non-owners as well, to year-round residents who have voting eligibility. So I do think the quick answer back to Florencia is that it is all Nantucket residents, and exactly how we target specific project messages will vary as we get into deeper into this messaging. I like the idea of focusing on the timeline as the priority. I honestly kind of overlooked that. I was just saying to myself, well, we need to educate people on what the CRP is about. But if we had that one critical message, it is about the timeline, I think that makes great sense. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Does anyone have a comment? Okay. Well, how do we how do we tell Florencia to put the timeline out there, Leah? Do we just say do that, or do we say do that and then you provide her with everything we're working on up to a certain point? Something like the chart you showed us. It has to be simplified. It can't confuse people. So
I see Christy has his hand up. Do you want to go to him first, or do you want me to?
okay, Christy.
I don't have an answer for my question. I'm just gonna throw it out there, as far as, outreach. Maybe there could be some sort of, public but also private component that homeowners should be aware of and start thinking about for their own property. This would, hopefully give them a little bit more, allow them to be a little bit more involved when it comes to their own property. Whether you're, close to a shore or a pond or whatever, as opposed to just being inland. I think that maybe recognizing a public and a private component so that we're all sort of in the mindset to, go after this.
So, Leah, you have those homeowner handouts, right? And do you think that answers what Christy is saying about private properties? Or is it something else?
So the handouts that I generally give them, pick them up right here. This one is made by Sea Grant, and it's a homeowner's handbook to prepare for coastal hazards. So that talks about some stuff. I mean, it's not obviously like geared directly to Nantucket, but for coastal communities. And then this one you guys made, improving coastal resilience at home. And then I also give them the Spectrum, which is made by Sea Grant as well. And it really explains everything that you can do in your property regarding like nature, doing nothing to nature-based solutions to structural stuff. So I think if we kind of honed in more about Nantucket, that would be beneficial to homeowners. But, for every meeting I do give, when I give presentations to the homeowners associations, bring these materials and people pick them up and bring them home. So I think it's a start, but that we could do something a little bit more.
Okay. All right, Matt.
Yeah, just we have I'm looking at it, I was looking at the packet. We have a lot of material. And and I'm not sure we could do the homeowner thing. We could do here are every month we could do some aspect of it. And I think the material, the pictures and things are already there. And I think it's just just sort of reiterating the urgency. And I think, when you look at Madaket, it's frightening. If people saw, if we had 1 month we talked about Madaket, that's frightening. You look at what's going to happen there. And I think, so when people we don't want to do the Concom, we don't want to change the rules, it'll slow things down. Well, we want to slow things down in Madaket. We don't want to build 2 times as many houses out there and in 20 years be dealing with them all. So I think at some point we need to, so I think there's not a lot we have to create. I think it's already done. It's just figuring out how to, what are we doing first and how are we doing it?
You mean like repackaging what we already have to specific areas?
Yeah, for specific areas in total, when you look at the total, the amount of roads that are at risk, the number of properties, the dollar amount, the flooding, the daytime flooding, the high tide flooding that's going to be here. There's a different topic or two we could hit every time. It's all there, and we all take it for granted, and we're all so close to it that we wonder why people don't see it like we do. Well, it's just not in front of them enough. So we could be taking various aspects, putting it in front more often.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Gary?
Did you call my name?
Yeah, you had your hand up.
Yes. Well, I agree with these comments that our colleagues are making. And my thought about, we need to send some messages out, which is really going to create a greater sense of urgency. So when I think about those issues, and of course, I always go back to our infrastructure risks. I keep thinking about the fact that in some of our meetings, Arcade has pointed out the fact that in a few years, Washington Street will be impassable for 100 days a year. 100 days a year, there won't be trucks delivering. There won't be anything coming on island because of normal flooding, unless we do something to make sure that Washington Street is raised and the ferry terminal is raised. So facts like that, if the public started hearing messages about the fact that, according to our forecast, it's likely that they're going to have this very severe problem because of the closure of Washington Street so often, merely just on a normal sunny day. Maybe that's the kind of message I think will create a sense of urgency that I think is needed.
All right, thanks, Gary. Sarah?
I think Joanna had her hand up before me, but
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
thanks, Joanna. So I was just really liked what Matt had to say, because I think how he said that doing like lots of different messaging really encompasses both the number of things we have to talk about, but also that urgency. So think about for all of us just in the community, if you hear about something once, you might hear it, you might absorb that information, but if you hear it over and over again, is when you're more likely to actually to absorb the information, right? And you kind of get that sense of urgency by hearing it over and over again. So I would propose whatever outlet it is that we have, whether it's like the Natural Resources Department Facebook page or social media outlets, or the monthly. I think a lot of people actually respond better to social media in a lot of ways. But we choose as in our meetings, like what that monthly message is going to be. And so I just like quickly wrote down like just the things that Matt said and even what Gary said was like, sometimes it could be about a specific homeowner thing, a specific neighborhood. It could be like the last storm, we lost so many feet in front of the sewer beds, or, whatever it might be. It might be sort of a news topic or sort of like directly, repurposing something from the plan or repurposing something from any of those homeowner guides. I think, as Matt said, we have so much, and Leah, we have so much material to work with. And instead of doing one big thing, because every time we have one big thing, it's almost too much. It's like getting all those bite-sized pieces out more frequently, I think will help with that sense of urgency. And so maybe we just have it as a line item in one of our monthly meetings about what that list of topics that like this month we're going to hit this, just kind of make that outreach plan. What I don't know, I think social media in general, a lot of people absorb very well. So I think that's sort of what I can see as the bite-sized pieces monthly, and maybe when we have bigger projects, has a different outreach strategy. But I think that would be a way for us to move forward with all that information we already have.
and so Sarah, are you thinking like just regular posts on social media with the message that we're trying to get out? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like if you just make a monthly calendar, we don't want to put a ton of work on ourselves. So it's monthly, like once a month, at the most basic, as part of whatever other social media, because we don't have our own social media. Obviously, it would be like part of the Natural Resources Department, I'm imagining, and then having like, we make a calendar ahead of time, or put it as part of a meeting where we have like maybe one week we talk about to Gary, or to, I think it was Matt's point, like the number of roads that are impacted, on like certain infrastructure. So it's kind of like the island-wide stuff, but then also the neighborhood specific stuff. Sometimes it could be a homeowner thing. Some months it could be a specific project that's in progress. I mean, I just think there's so much that we could do that just kind of piecing it out in these digestible chunks will help people absorb each individual piece of information, but also seeing it over and over again adds that urgency and that, you know, that timeline piece we keep talking about. So like that was my suggestion anyway, of just like scheduling it out. Then of course, if there's bigger things that we need to communicate about, like, you know, maybe a big funding thing or a new project that's about to launch, like that can be in addition to and have different outreach outlets, but starting with a basic, something that's kind of a regular interval. So then people are also regularly hearing from the crack group.
Right, great, Sarah, thank you. Joanna?
Yes, so I am going to incorporate some of what Sarah said into what I'm suggesting. So on this group, we have the Linda Loring Foundation, the Land Bank, the Maria Mitchell Association, many of the Land and Water Council, because RJ sometimes comes. So we have all of these groups who have a vested interest in the Coastal Resiliency Plan and who participated in significant ways in forming the plan. I would be willing, and I would guess that my colleagues would also be potentially willing, to be able to put something in our newsletter once a month, right? That would be the same across the board, so that we are hitting a consistent message to all of our constituents. I mean, that's what we bring to this group. I mean, we have a mailing list of, 7,500 people. I would be happy to put in something from Leah every single month about coastal resiliency, because the people who are certainly, I think, our collective constituents are interested in this topic. So if we want to start hitting across other memberships and groups, I think the science folks on this call are the best place to start.
Yes, excellent. Thanks, Joanna. Doug?
I love all this. This is awesome. Just another thought to throw on the pile would be if we could follow Sarah's suggestion of building out a calendar where each month or even each week we have some kind of a kind of an attention grabbing did you know fact that's drawn directly from the CRP, right? We don't have to go back and invent anything new. We have all the data, and create some kind of a shareable I don't want to call it a meme, but some kind of a attention grabbing device that could be designed to be easily shareable. You put it out on the social media platforms that all of our committee members represent, and encourage people to share them on their own social media. I think that would be a really interesting idea to explore. That's it. Thanks.
And also, Doug, when you do that, a link to the plan or a link to the place in the plan that was pulled from. So you put people right in the plan, and that they then have to sort of navigate. Maybe they look around, maybe they don't, but at least it's not something that you pulled from nowhere. There's an actual link that takes you there. Okay, Leah?
Sorry, I can't find my digital hand for some reason. I think maybe because I'm sharing the screen, but I love this conversation, and I think that's a great idea that Sarah brought up about, parceling out a couple of topics per month. I'm happy to share that, every Thursday on NRD social media. So I think if we can kind of start developing a list for that would be really helpful. I think Joanna's offer for the newsletter is also awesome as well. And I'm curious if you guys think it would be beneficial to also come up with, do we want to use one topic that we decide to put in the newsletter, which can also be shared on social media, or do you want it to be, two different things as well? And I think if for this meeting, if we can come up with, coming up with a list of stuff that I can start sharing for the month of October, that would be helpful.
I think that you can recap in the newsletter what was put out on social media and then add another topic, because there are people who don't look at social media, and the newsletter is perfect for them. I guess the newsletter will be digital, but it may also be mailed. As long as we don't overload them with information, you know, 1 or 2 topics, that's what I think. Sarah?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Leah, I think that's a really great idea, like kind of like putting all the ideas together. So my suggestion would be if there's a dedicated, like you said, I think you said Thursday, whatever day it is, that's like, can be a like Coastal Resilience Day. I think some of the very first posts I'd recommend doing as some of the island-wide things. Like I liked what Matt said about like the number of roads impacted by a certain date, whatever that map is that we have in the plan. I can't remember off the top of my head, but maybe hit a few of the island-wide ones. And in the very first one, that's like Coastal Resilience Thursday or whatever, say this is going to be a regular, like a little note at the bottom of that. That's like, this is going to be a regular post. Like keep an eye out here for more coastal resilience. Maybe we'll delve into specific problems, but this is, of course, is an issue that we all share, something along those lines. And then I like if we do add information to our newsletters, whether it's like Linda Loring or Mariah Mitchell or Conservation Foundation. I think maybe we could do, depending on the topic that period, right? Like if it's something island-wide about roads, maybe there can be then a little expanding of it. Because, right, obviously social media we know is like bite size. It's like, here's a quick tidbit and people like take it, maybe click a link through or something, but a newsletter is that opportunity to have a little bit more information. So maybe it's something that's like just the same topic but like a little bit more or expanded or something like that. So I really like this. Maybe for specific lists, I know that would help you, Leah. I'm getting some of that together. I'm happy to just like type some ideas to you, but I think whatever works for whatever is easy for you too, like whatever, like in terms of those bite-sized bits. And I'm happy to help, whether it's on the meeting or offline as well.
Thank you, Sarah. Do we have more ideas?
I'm not sure if I can be heard. I'm not part of your group watching in today.
Okay, so you're a member of the public?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, we're not done with the discussion.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'll wait.
Okay, so the protocol for public comment is that we get completely done with our discussion.
Okay.
About to move on to our next agenda item, and then we ask for public comment. So
all right, I'll just take notes then.
Okay, thank you. Leah?
Thanks, Peter. I think too, you know, in the next couple months as well, there's a couple of projects like I mentioned that are being put in for capital requests. So that's a strategic retreat and relocation plan, and then the Pulpus Road at Folders Marsh road elevation. Then there's, you know, the coastal resilience districts and that sort of stuff. So if the committee thinks that those should maybe be some of the topics that we start focusing on in newsletters and social media as well.
Thank you. I agree. It might be a good idea to just sort of, I don't know what the committee thinks about this, but wake people up and say, this is going on. The plan was approved on this date. Did you know? And now we're into working through the recommendations, and just a sort of an opener, I guess, and then go into what you said, Leah. You guys think that's a good idea? What do you think? You can actually speak if you want to, if anyone has anything to say. I was just saying that if we all of a sudden launch our outreach campaign or part of it by social media, it might not everybody might. People are so busy in the summer, people might not remember, but if we at least start off and have a starting place and say, this is the Coastal Resilience Plan, and it was adopted by the select board, made by our committee over X number of years, this is its intent, and over the next, you know, going forward, watch this space and this time of day, or this, you know, this day where we're gonna help inform you about the plan and what's important. And so at least people can follow us along, and we have a starting point. And Leah, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. I'm just thinking about this. So maybe the first month or two is kind of like an overall, you know, this is the coastal resilience plan, and then hit some of the, you know, roadways, like the stuff that's in your face. And then kind of as the year progresses and we get closer to town meeting, then kind of go into the specific projects. And, you know, we can obviously do the broad timeline kind of as an overview post as well.
Yep.
So maybe would it be, I think it would be helpful is if we break it down per month, and kind of put some topics in there, and then I can use that as a schedule for posting on social media, and then also giving the information to the different newsletters as well. It would also be helpful too if the organizations that are willing to put this in their newsletter, if you can just, you know, let me know who to send it to, and then specific dates that it's due by, so that it will make it in there. And does the board want to look over what's going in the newsletter before it goes in the newsletter? If there's any, you know, edits or comments about that too. So that's a question I have for you all.
Yeah, if it doesn't slow things up, it'd be good for us to see what's gonna go in, since we're the disseminators of the information. Do you think between now and the next meeting, Leah, you can put together 12 months of topics based on what we're saying now? Or do you want us to do that, come up with what we think and bring it to you, and you do the same thing, and then we all work on it together? Or what do you think? Leah and then Sarah.
Thanks, Peter. I think it would be helpful if we did it together.
Okay.
You know, if you guys can also email me topics, and then I can put it into a calendar. And then at the next meeting, we can go over it and say, yeah, that should stay for this month, or no, that should get moved. But I'd like to do it collaboratively.
Okay. Sarah?
Yeah, thanks. I was actually gonna say what, like Leah said, I think that just in the interest of while we have a lot of topics we can mine from, that knowing what we want to put a full year out might be hard. So if we want to do like 6-month snippets, and maybe by the next meeting there can be like here's the topic. And I think if we all email or whoever has ideas, not that everyone has to, but you know, if we have ideas, then we can slot them in, but also knowing that they can change if something comes up. And then I think if, you know, I'm willing to help if you ever need help, Leah, with actually like writing up something or whatever. But I also think a goal would be to reach out to people who might have particular information about any one thing. So whatever that topic might be about, you know, most of it will be pulling directly from the plan. So that might be easy, but there might be some things that come up, like specifically as you were saying, Leah, with the Folgers Marsh and like the road elevation there, that might be like you and Jen or something, not to volunteer Jen for a topic, but you know, just I don't think we all have to do it by committee. And then if there's things that, you know, you want us to read through before it goes out, I would say more like put it out and be like, if I don't hear from anybody by this certain date, then like it'll just happen. And then, you know, I just think a way for us to be efficient with it too. You know, I don't want it to like bog you down, but I also don't think everything has to be written by a committee.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Anyone else? Okay. Does that all sound good to you, Leah? By the next meeting? By the next meeting, we come up with each of us comes up with what we think are the 6 months of topics.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I'll send out a reminding email too after the meeting.
Okay. So we can move on if we have no more comments. Shelley Lockwood, you had something to say?
Yes, hi. So
Can you
What am I
identify yourself? Can you identify yourself? Who are you? Do you represent an organization? Are
No.
you a year-round person, a summer visitor, or how do we know who you are?
Jen and Sarah know who I am, but I'm a year-round resident on Nantucket. I've been here, my family, for 50 years. I've been living here for decades. I'm a real estate agent on the island.
Okay,
My daughter got her master's in sustainability science, so this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart, but also so is this island. Anyway, when you were talking about ways to get this information out there, I'm 100% certain that my profession is going to be resistant to what you have to say, but I'm not. And I think that if you could present as part of continuing ed, real estate agents have to take 12 credits per year of continuing ed to keep their licenses. And I think if something could be crafted into a continuing education class for real estate agents on the island, once the agents know the information, they have to present it as a material fact. That's part of our rules and laws. And I'm not saying this is going to be a popular idea, but I think it's imperative that people who are buying at risk properties or properties that are going to be impacted within 5-10 years, in real estate, that's tomorrow, so I think it would be worthwhile. The real estate agents on the island are talking face to face with buyers, right, every day. And if they could educate those people on what's going to happen to that property or what's going to be required to protect it, I just think it's a really strong face-to-face educational tool that would be helpful for your goals. And I'm sure it's not going to make me any friends in my profession, but I think that the waterfront properties that are being sold, that if anyone has any knowledge of what you guys are talking about, which most of us do, they're just not admitting it. But I think to have to get it out there is going to help. I can work from my side if I'm asked to work with the continuing ed people to try to craft a class. They're usually about 2 hours in length. We all have to go to them every year. So it was just a thought when you were talking about outreach and education. Thank you.
sounds great. What do you guys think?
Good idea. It's a great idea.
Great idea.
Great idea.
Thank you.
Doug, you get your hand up, or you're clapping, sorry.
Okay.
So how do we do this, Leah? Are we gonna do a presentation, some sort of PowerPoint, and some of us are gonna go to that, or would you go to that, Vince, or probably me as the chairman?
Yeah, I think that, Shelley, if maybe you can write me an email so I have your email address, and I can get more information from you about it. And then at another craft meeting, we can talk about it and see how we want to do it. I'm happy to do it. But if, we kind of want to split it up, that would be great too. So
I'll talk to the
great for another agenda item, at a near future meeting. And I just want to get some more information from Shelley about it.
I'll connect you with, and I'll talk to the people who organize the continuing ed classes on Nantucket, and we can take it from there and see what's required. But thanks for listening. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. Matt?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's in the realtor's self-interest to make sure they disclose all this stuff. In some states and some listings, they'll put links to like flood factor or risk factor. We could put links to our things that show where we're going to have issues. But I think, how do I say that? And then they've disclosed it and they're not liable. And I think in doing the right thing, sort of long-term here, will be doing the right thing for their clients and for themselves. And so I think that there's a win-win here if it's presented the right way.
I agree completely.
Okay, Tim?
Yeah, just I think that real estate brokers are a great way to get not just warnings about properties, but the CRP in general, because people are buying on the island, they're going to want to know what the island's plans are to save itself. And I think, I don't know how you educate brokers on that, but I just think that's another aspect that they would be, they have the most face-to-face contact with people of anybody. So I think it's a real gold mine there for communication.
Great, thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, we're gonna move on to number 5. Example of presentation given by Coastal Resilience Coordinator Leah Hill to homeowner associations. Go ahead, Leah.
I'm going to share my screen again.
Okay.
And this was in the packet, so I'm not going to take a long time doing it, but this is just an example of presentations that I gave to 4 different homeowners associations this past summer. So it was the Smiths Point Association, the Wawanit Association, the Town Association, and then the 4th was the Civic League President's Breakfast that had 25 homeowner presidents at that meeting too. So I generally have kind of the same format for, each neighborhood association that I'm talking about. So I start off with just information about the Coastal Resilience Plan, what the goals were, what went into it, how it uses, high level or high scenario sea level rise for the island. Then I talk about the coastal risks on the island. So, erosion, groundwater table rise, coastal flooding, high tide flooding. And I took all of this from the CRP about the percentages of that. I talk about the risks of damages and losses if we don't do anything, and how this number is an annual amount of $3.4 billion. And then I also talk about how if we implemented the plan, we would actually be, saving for every dollar of the plan that you implement, you save about $2.60 in the future. So, and then I talk about the 40 detailed recommendations and how this chart is kind of broken out. I go into the sea level rise scenarios for NOAA, and then show this awesome picture of if you're here in the winter, what some of the storms look like. And then I talk about sea level rise for normal day high tide flooding. This is NOAA's sea level rise viewer. And then talk about how it is, how it's going to change in by 2040, by 2050, and then by 2070 to 2080. So that's just high tide. Then I talk about this right from the CRP and how there's loss of service to the steamship by 2050. And then I hone in on the neighborhood. So this is the reviewer for Smiths Point in particular that NOAA did. 2050, you can see a lot of Jackson Point and Hitter Creek. And then I talk about the Massachusetts Coastal Flood Risk Model and how this is a probabilistic model. It has, kind of higher accuracy. And you can see what this is by 2050, the Mattakit Smiths Point area, quite scary, 2070. So then I go into, if it's, coastal neighborhood, about the erosion and how in about 170 years of this area has lost 2,000 feet. And then I talk about the FEMA projections for erosion as well, and how in that same area in about 80 years, it's going to lose about 2,000 feet. So that erosion is happening faster. Then I go into the coastal risks in that area and what that means. And then how there's tools within the CRP and, talk about the protect, adapt, and relocate. And then I come to this chart and go over that. I go into more detail about, the projects for their specific areas, and I said that they can read the other projects on their own because it'll just take too long, to go through it. Go into Mattakit. Here we go. Give updates about that, and then use the depictions from the CRP to talk about the different projects that are, either currently happening or planning to happen within their area. And then coastal monitoring project for Mattakit. The other solutions, here we go. And then I always say that, resiliency is a cycle. And that it's always, you always want to improve it. And then I give information about the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee. And then I like to end it with them feeling a bit empowered instead of, fearful and scared with all the risks and projections for their for their area. So again, to the homeowners toolkit and the CRP, and then what they can do to help. So yeah, I leave it at that. And I've gotten great feedback from all the homeowners associations, and a lot of them either didn't know about the coastal resilience plan or the risks that are in their area. And a lot of them were very interested in what they can do on their property to make it more resilient. So that's how I end it.
Thanks, Leah. Can you tell us how many area associations you've been to so far?
So I've been to 3 area associations, and then that one that had all of the presidents at it.
Okay. And you plan to go to the other area associations over time?
Yeah, so this summer I had the presidents reach out to me to give a presentation at their annual meeting. So that's generally in the summer when most of the residents are here. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to give presentations to any associations if they're interested.
So essentially you're waiting for them to contact you, or are you going to schedule?
So this summer I just waited for them to contact me. I was new in the position, but I think by us working together with the homeowners associations and getting the word out, that we can develop a schedule or figure out when their annual meetings are, if they would be interested in me giving a presentation. So yeah. And
so when we eventually get the feedback from the individual surveys that they put out, then we can craft each presentation for that area.
Yes.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, if they want me to give a presentation, some of them might not. So.
Okay. Okay, Doug, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Just a comment and a question. The comment is I could see back to our earlier discussion, populating a list of 10 to 20, God knows how many did you knows directly from your PowerPoint presentation. There are some real attention grabbers in there. So that was a thought. And then just a question, I was curious, what's the range of reactions that you get? I assume at some point you've encountered a homeowner whose own property might be affected by one of these grids. And I'm just curious, like, have you had people respond in an emotional way, or how is it received typically?
Peter, if that's okay to answer through you.
Wait, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Say it again, Doug.
It was a question for Leah. So
okay, go ahead,
you.
Leah.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Yeah, it's kind of a whole spectrum. So some people are like, wow, we had no idea, thank you for this. And other people, obviously it's their homes and see if the projections are not good. So what I say is these are tools, these are educational tools for you to know what your risks are so that you can help buy time and do stuff on your property to give you more time. You know, and I say that these aren't, you know, we don't know what's going to happen for the future, but it's best to know what the projections may be so that you are aware, and that you can decide what you want to do on your property or with your assets, or, you know, if you want to sell your house or whatever they may choose. But I go at it as an educational tool.
Okay, thanks, Leah. Thanks, Doug. Jen?
Thanks, Pete. And through you, Leah, that was a really awesome presentation. I think that's such a great way to get all this in front of people. I mean, I know doing our smaller education, individual outreach is going to be good, but talking one-on-one with the homeowners and showing them specifically what the projections look like within their neighborhoods, I think is really powerful. I'm wondering if, I know that there's a lot of push to get in front of homeowners associations at their annual meetings. I know it's something that we as a Conservation Foundation group do because our land borders so many homeowners associations. So there's a push to be speakers at these annual meetings. I wonder if we come up with a list and target, and I know you don't have all the time in the world, but doing even this as a Zoom presentation throughout the off season to get people to get you into talking to people about what's happening in their neighborhoods. I'm assuming this is something people would hopefully log on to, and if not, then, you know, we can always record it maybe and have it have that presentation available so that they can view it afterwards. That would just be another track to take as well if you get positive feedback from the homeowners association presidents.
I saw Tim's hand, but I just wanted to say, I guess this would be directed to Sarah and Joanna and Jen. It could be a science pub topic if you guys do that, you know, maybe a more general presentation. Okay, Tim.
I was just swatting a fly, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't raising my hand.
Okay. Do we have any more comments from the committee? No? Okay. Any public comment? All right. Awesome. Thank you, Leah. Okay, number 6, develop and refine survey questions to send to homeowner associations. Okay. You're going to share your screen? Okay.
Do you want me to do the Word document so that I can edit it at like live, or do you just want the PDF?
Word document, and then if there's more editing, it can go on, you know, when the meeting's over.
Okay, great. All right. Can you all see that? I'll zoom in a bit.
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you want to go through this, Peter, or do you want me to?
No, I'll go through it. So just to clarify for everybody, these are survey questions that the 25 area associations will get, and they'll send to their members, and the presidents will get them, and once we refine them, and then they will send them out to their members. Hopefully the members will send back the surveys filled out. And then, much better informed, the presidents will then come and attend a meeting and tell us the results of the survey, so that we have more ideas to help us. So purpose: to gain clarity on homeowners' knowledge and worries about coastal hazards they experience on their property and within their neighborhood. This will help the committee develop a roadmap and materials that homeowners can use to implement best practices. And we stress that we multiple choice as much as possible. So what are your biggest concerns today regarding coastal hazards, erosion, flooding, groundwater table rise on your property or within your neighborhood? Do you have concerns about your property for the future? If so, what are they? What is the most pressing urgent sea level rise issue that your property is facing in the near future? Are you currently implementing coastal resiliency measures like raising your home, planting with native vegetation, using sand/snow fencing, dry proofing your house, etc.? From your perspective, how can the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee and the Coastal Resilience Plan help your neighborhood? Which materials would you find helpful in addressing your concerns? A roadmap, best practices brochure for your home, best practices brochure for your yard, online tool, or other potential other questions to ask, not as relevant to outreach. Are you aware of the town's Coastal Resilience Plan? Have you read it? What aspects of the CRP should be rethought, and how should we do that? Do any of the recommendations fall within your property's location? Are you prepared to pay for projects that benefit your property and assets? Are you considering moving your home to another island location that is less vulnerable? Okay. We like everything we see, and it's all good, and we can move on to the next agenda item right now. Please, 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 please. Or are we going to do some editing? Sarah Boyce.
I really appreciate your optimism, Pete. It's very refreshing. I just had to, I really think this is great. I agree with the very beginning where it says as much multiple choice as possible, because you always know if you want essay answers, very few people will like do that part. And so if you want the like any data at all or anything to come of it, where people can just do the multiple choice is great. And then always having that other or elaborate, explain box for the people who want to be able to do that. So I think that's great. The only thing I would sort of caution and maybe just edit the word choice is I think number 8, where it's I really hesitate with the should, because it sort of makes it sound like we know we did something wrong, or I don't know, just like, you know, I don't know exactly what the right words would be, but I appreciate the question, you know, like, where do you think that the CRP maybe need to be edited or rethought on an earlier stage or first or something like that? But just the should thing, people, I don't know, that's like, it has a negative connotation. And then the only other thing was on number 10, thinking about the payment and maybe wording that it sounds a little bit like we're going to give you a bill. I don't know. I mean, I know it doesn't, but I'm just thinking where if someone doesn't have any information about these topics yet, and, you know, we're reaching an audience that maybe hasn't read the CRP and hasn't been kind of party to some of these conversations, if we say, like, are you prepared to pay for this? They're going to be, heck no, you know, like, so just thinking of how we word that about like have you considered how these projects might be paid for? Have you invested in your own property's resiliency? You know, there can be a few other ways, but I just want to caution that we read it with a few different eyes, like someone who knows the topic well, someone who's never seen this topic before, someone who might have the resources to tackle some of this, and some people who might be like, oh my gosh, am I going to be asked to pay for something suddenly? And that might change their answers. So just kind of keeping that in mind.
All right, thanks, Sarah. I would suggest that number 8, the should could be a could. That would soften it, or it could be might. Go ahead, Gary.
I had one question about 6A, which talks about a roadmap. I'm not sure what we would give them. I think the roadmap that I can think about is B and C, best practices for your home and your yard. I don't. What do you mean by? What does it mean by 6A roadmap?
Leah, can you help them?
So a roadmap would be something like, all right, this is your neighborhood, this is what's happening. You can take these steps for your neighborhood or your home, kind of to become more resilient. So, you know, they have the option to choose what they want to do, but to give them the material and like, okay, this is the first step, second, third, fourth, kind of like a timeline a little bit. That's how I would understand it, but I'm open to anybody else's explanation.
I mean, do we have any roadmaps for any neighborhoods? We don't.
No, we don't. So this would be the first.
But we'd have to invent one.
So maybe it would be, maybe Leah and Gary, everybody, we just have a better way, a roadmap. And you'd have to explain it after you said roadmap, so people know what you're talking about, so that's one of, so number 6 is the only one that really is multiple choice. And so are we right now, as a committee, are we going to come up with multiple choice for 1 through 5? Do you think we can do that? So number 1, erosion, flooding, groundwater table rise. Could we think of 2 more for that? What are your biggest concerns today regarding coastal hazards, erosion? A, erosion, B, flooding, C, groundwater table rise, D, having to move your house.
I was just gonna jump in with one of them would be access.
Okay, that's good.
And I don't know if sea level rise is like encompassed in flooding, because it's like sea level rise and storm surge. I don't know if for the sake of this, we might just like put them together.
Or maybe you could just say, what are your biggest concerns today regarding coastal hazards related to sea level rise, so that they're thinking that when they go into picking one of those. So there's 6 right there.
Sorry, did you want me to put storm surge? Stormwater.
I would say stormwater management to me would be a possible issue.
And then storm impacts too. I mean, that storm surge, but also just increased storms. And I think that if this section is multiple choice, you should be able to pick, yeah, more than one for this.
Yeah, pick all that apply. And item H could be other, with a box that says if you want to continue your thoughts or whatever, however you want to say it, but give them a space to add something if something comes to mind, so that we're definitely getting them to check off, A through G, but we also get, if they want to leave their thoughts.
A question? Access, what do you mean by access exactly? Access to what?
Access to your house, access to the road, how do you get there? Is your access cut off by erosion, flooding? Is that what you're kind of thinking, Tim?
Yeah, it's kind of all of that, isn't it? And services.
Access to property and services. Okay.
And
Sarah
another-
Boyce, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Tim.
I was
Did-
just thinking, with the access, I was also thinking of like emergency services, like can they get to you, kind of thing. So, but I think it's sort of all within that.
Yeah.
I was just going to add, I would put raising or relocating your house.
Okay,
Do you want that together or separate?
together, right, Tim?
Yeah, I think together, it's fine.
Okay. Doug?
Yeah, I would suggest wherever possible that we really scrutinized for redundancy. So like, I think one does a really nice job of kind of capturing the overall level of concern. I don't know if we do number one right, that we need number two and number three. And the only reason I'm arguing that maybe we think about taking those out is that the shorter you make the survey, the more responses you'll get. Thanks.
What do you guys think about that? Leah, what do you think?
I think we could probably take number 3 out, but I think it would be interesting to keep 2 to see if people are actually thinking about their property in the future. Peter and I were talking about this, people have a hard time thinking, 10, 20, 30 years on their property. So I think it would give us some good information to know, what they are, if they're just thinking about today or if they're thinking about in 20 years. But that's just my thoughts. So whatever you guys think.
Well, I think that, and I agree with Leah because, those A through G doesn't necessarily cover what people's concerns are, and they may have things that we haven't thought of. There'll be a unique situation, something that we might be able to learn from.
But
So,
Peter, suppose you just put the word other in front of the word concerns. So it's not one of the ones up above, something other than that. No, other concerns, yeah. No, I don't mean that other, I mean, in this.
Are you saying
number 2, yeah, do you have other concerns? Maybe that's duplicative using other in both places, but.
or do you have special concerns or unique concerns or something like that?
Yeah, Peter, it's Matt.
Matt,
I agree with getting rid of 3, and if you want to keep 2, you could say something like, do you have concerns about your property or neighborhood? If so, what are they? Sort of broaden it. So it's, so it's not just your own property, you're connected to everything else.
okay, I agree with that.
In the future part.
Yeah, get rid of 3. And do you have concerns about your property or your neighborhood?
Do you want number 2 to have multiple choice?
I don't know. I think this is one of the open-ended ones where we want people to talk. And, we can direct Peter Morrison to direct his presidents. We can say what we're looking for each one of the questions. We can give him a roadmap, or we can give him crib notes and say, tell your presidents, this is kind of what we're looking for. And maybe they can relay that and stress, to their members, we really want you to answer number 2 in your own words, but the rest are multiple choice, something like that. Sarah?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's sort of written like a yes or no, right? So you could just have the choice be yes, no, if yes, please explain. Because I think while, some neighborhoods, people might not feel like they're nervous, like if it's middle of the island or something, and it'd be good data for us to have, like where people are already very aware of issues and are nervous, and then not nervous, but are, do have concerns, and then where people don't currently have concerns.
That's a good point. It's Matt. That's a good point, Sarah, because I think there's a lot of people who are sitting by wetlands and ponds in the Mid-Island think, this doesn't apply to us. We're all set. So it would be great to get some from those areas and be able to target that. Yeah, you should have some concerns. Here they are.
I agree with that. Chrissy?
Yeah, just to comment, it just was, I'm not sure how it fits into this, but I'd be curious to know how people perceive that their neighborhood, not just them, but their neighborhood, will, approach, coastal resiliency, if there'll be, is there going to be a few holdouts, or is there going to be everyone on board? It'll be interesting, when people do, describe their concerns for their neighborhood, how they see that that's going to present itself.
Leah,
I think that's a great idea, Christine. Maybe that could be the first question. If you guys want to develop that to kind of kick it off and then get into the details.
wait, so that's going to replace the current first question?
It could be you'll keep the number one, but what Chrissy just suggested could be number one. This could be moved to number two.
Okay. So do you have a way we're gonna ask that, Christy?
I do not. I can think about it.
Or can you give us the gist of it so Leah can then come up with a question?
Yeah, basically, how do you perceive that your neighborhood will approach coastal resiliency issues? Something to that tune, maybe. I do think it's important that, there's so much emphasis on a homeowner thinking about, do I lift my house up? Do I, put in measures to, other measures to sort of help? But it is important for people to think about, what's my neighbor going to do and how's that going to affect me? It's kind of like the Sconset Bluff, one person does, treatment and someone doesn't, the transitions are gonna be affected, and I do think that it's very important for neighbors to think about the big picture, because that's really where I think where it's gonna succeed is when you have a full neighborhood on board, for that matter, a whole island on board, but that's where things are gonna succeed, not just by doing it one person at a time.
Well said.
I think people, I know in Sconset, people are concerned about how involved they're going to be in decision making and so on. It's sort of a part of, I think, what Christy's saying. I don't know how to incorporate that, but
You might also make it a sort of a two-part question. How do you perceive your neighborhood will approach coastal resiliency issues, or if your neighborhood is already working on these issues, what are they doing?
Peter, another suggestion? Can I barge in?
Yes,
maybe the A and the B here could be simply as a neighborhood or as individual homeowners. Right? In other words, do you perceive your neighborhood to be operating as an aligned group or not? So yeah, as a neighborhood or as individual homeowners. Is that kind of the spirit of what you were asking, Chris?
Yeah, no, I think that's good to point out. Yeah.
But the second part of the question, as number C or just how it is?
I don't know. Maybe just cut it.
You might want to add the word as in front of individual homeowners. So it's a choice as a neighborhood, as individual homeowners. That's it.
Okay.
Can I ask just a quick
Does it work
question,
for you,
Peter?
Christie?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I kind of think this first question is, you're sort of presuming that people are fully on board with what coastal resiliency is. Whereas you might, and a lot of the homeowner associations are, because they're involved. But that first question, I almost think question 2 is a better lead-in question. It'd be interesting to know, just you ask people, what do you think coastal resiliency is? Like, what does it all encompass? But I think that first question there kind of rolls into question 3. It could be part of it, could be a subset, but I do think question 2 is possibly could be a better lead-in. But I do think it would be nice I think it'd be good to, put the question out, what do you think coastal resiliency is? Just to see what that answer looks like. And then I think all these other questions are really great to fall in. Just to,
Oh, the one that, so just paste that in there, Leah, the one that he said cut, so that becomes number 2. And number 2 becomes number 3. Yeah. Because now
You want
number 3.
a new number 1 about what do you think coastal resiliency is?
I don't know. I think or maybe you're asking them, have you read the coastal resilience plan and do you know what I don't know.
Is it more how urgent do you think the issue is somehow?
I'm not sure if we have to ask them that. I mean, they're being asked the survey. They're being asked to fill out a survey. They're going to have some semblance of coastal resiliency, especially if they live in an area where the water is going to come right in their backyard. It might even be offensive to ask them if they know what it is. I think it's more important to know whether they've read the plan or not.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Thanks, Pete. I think what you said about, not wanting to be offensive to people, I think that's exactly kind of the sentiment I was thinking. And I think with the surveys, there's 2 things I was thinking of. One is it's always good to start with a multiple choice. So people are kind of engaged in participating in the survey. If we lead with the big essay questions, it kind of is a turnoff. And then the other thing is we really need to think about what are we going to do with the information. So we don't need a survey that's exhaustive, that we need every ounce of information. What do we want to know from people, and to make it as short and sweet as possible. So I think while it's nice to get an understanding of whether or not people understand what coastal resiliency is, asking them to write an essay question about it is kind of hard. And also, what are we going to do with that information? So I think the way we can get at that without directly asking, we don't want to make anyone feel like they're not smart or something because they don't know exactly what a definition is. So just for every question, what are we going to do with this information? Is this information we can act on or learn something from? I think is just an important step back. I like this as question one because I think it helps set the tone and people can just like answer what like all that apply and it engages them immediately. So that's all I want to say.
Great,
Peter,
Sarah.
Peter, I'm not so sure. Question number two will not, some people will feel insulted. You're asking for people to say, how do you think your neighbors are doing? Or how do you think your neighborhood association is doing? I'm not sure you even need number two, that whole thing. It's just people's opinion about how well their association is doing or their neighbors. I'm not sure people need to be asked that question.
You think that's going to offend them?
Yes, I do.
I agree with Gary.
Okay, so do
I
we
agree
think,
with- I'm sorry,
Should-
Peter.
do you think we should get rid of this and have 5 questions instead of 6? Or is there a replacement for that? Is there more information? Do we take one of the questions down from the bottom and put it up there?
I agree with that. I think that that number 2 sort of rolls into number 3 with the neighborhood comment. So
Right.
Okay, so deleting number 2. Yes,
Before that? Okay, yes.
okay. I have a comment too about the coastal resilience definition, Peter, if I
Yes,
can.
go ahead.
Okay, I think, up here, we can say what coastal resilience is, and then go into what the purpose of the survey is and how we're gonna use that information. So then they're all on the same, if they decide to read that part of it, all on the same playing field of what they know what coastal resilience is.
Yes, I agree. It's a good idea. Do you guys like that?
Yeah.
Yep.
It sort of sets the tone for this is what we're talking about. And
Yep.
then all the questions are related to that, so they know. We don't have to make them feel stupid by saying, do you know what resiliency is? Because we just told them what it is. It's their primer. So definitely, Leah. So then that puts us on to, are you currently implementing coastal resiliency measures like raising your home, planting with native vegetation, so all of those could be our multiple choice.
Just a suggestion. I imagine there's a relatively small population of people that's currently doing anything. Could we rephrase it to, are you planning to do any of the following coastal resiliency measures?
I don't think we should make that assumption. Not just yet. Because by saying that, you're currently implementing coastal resiliency measures. We're just sort of, I guess it's a leap of faith. We hope you're doing this. We're being positive with that, I think. And we're sort of telling people this is how, in a subtle way, this is how you should be thinking. This is how we'd like you to think. Mind control. Yeah, that's what we want to do. And we think of a couple of more. Raising your home, planting with native vegetation, using sand and snow fencing, dry proofing your home. Proofing your home.
Pervious surfaces. I mean, you get pretty technical. Bioswales.
Maybe.
Okay, long silence here. No more ideas?
Doug, maybe it's improving floodwater absorption or something like that.
Yeah. Reducing impervious surfaces, or, yeah, improving ground cover. I don't know.
Removing hardscaping.
Yeah.
About,
Maybe-
what about adding, permeable surfaces?
Yeah.
Whether it's gravel,
Yeah.
You know, between now and the next meeting, as Leah perfects this,
Mhm.
we can send her, if we have ideas that pop into our heads, we can send her ideas.
I have a bad idea.
You have a bad idea?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm not serious about this. Like raising your swimming pool, which shouldn't be in the flood area anyway. I'm just kidding.
or, emptying your swimming pool so skateboarders can use it,
I mean, if people who are getting permission, what they say to the planning board or the HDC, in order to get permission after I scream about it, they say, don't worry, we're raising it an extra 2 feet or 3 feet.
Yeah,
We're
great.
all doing it. It's all being done in Brant Point right now. Outrageous.
Let me ask you this, Gary.
Yep.
Are they saltwater swimming pools or are they chlorine?
They usually, what they say is it's going to be environmentally friendly, is what they say to the planning board when they decide to put them in.
Okay. Anyway.
Well, you want, hey, I got Peter, first it's Matt.
Yeah,
Couple things. Pools leak. There's nobody is draining them. Saltwater pools are the worst. They create chlorine. They create the cleaner where they process that leaves forever chemicals behind. So that shouldn't be going into any benthic environment. That shouldn't be going into the harbor or into the wetlands or even on their property. So it's a pretty interesting topic, and I understand why people are avoiding it but
okay. All right, so we'll just leave 3, and if we have other ideas, please send them to Leah. And we'll get this, we're gonna do the next 2 questions, but we'll get this, we'll get it back at the next meeting. From your perspective, how can the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee and the CRP help your neighborhood? Who has multiple choice answers for this?
We could, sorry, can I go ahead, Peter?
Yes, go ahead, Sarah.
We could have things like, okay, I think the multiple choices could be things that we are willing to do. So like presentation, I don't know. What are some of the other things that Leah had in her presentation, right? Like, I don't know, like I don't want to oversell it by saying like, what can we do for you? And then people have this huge list, and really that's not our purview, is like neighborhood by neighborhood, exact specifics. So I think, I don't know, like I don't like homeowner. I guess the next, it kind of folds in with the next question, right? Because would we provide a roadmap or best practices for that particular thing, or like all the
Maybe Sarah, 5 and 6 come together and we take those ones below and put them below, since it's, we're saying how can the Coastal Resilience and CRP help your neighborhood, and down below we're saying which materials would you find helpful in addressing your concerns. Is basically the same question. We might be able to modify 5 with some of 6 and then make those 3 down there, answers,
Yeah. I think that would be great, because it's like, it's what do we already have available that we could make available for different associations, but then also what are we willing to do?
Yeah. Because we're the advisory, we're not the regulatory, and we aren't gonna, change the world for them. It's gonna be the voters and the select board. And so Are we making sense to you, Leah?
So do you want to keep this number 4 question, but move the multiple choice from number 5 up to 4?
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
I mean, basically what the neighborhoods would like is, from us, is to educate them on alternative, what's available for alternative means of dealing with some of these coastal resiliency issues. If that's what people were asked, they'd say, well, what I'd like to know is will CRAC give us information and educate us about the various alternatives that are available to deal with our flooding problems.
Right, that's good. Informational presentation. And Leah, what'd you have in mind when you said online tool?
I don't know. I just put it in there, we will be updating the town's web pages. So if I'd have to talk to Florencia to see what sort of online tool, like sometimes there's like story maps and stuff like that. I don't know if that would be applicable to this, but someone that has a communication background can inform us for that.
Okay. So
Are there any other examples?
What did you say, Leah?
I'm just wondering if there's any other examples that people have for number 4.
Or you mean number 5, right? Oh, number 4, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, number 4. Yeah, okay. If we don't have any other examples, then I'd say we're more or less done. Does anybody have anything?
Well, I must say that one of the questions that might come up is CRAC going to help us figure out how to pay for some of these changes that are needed in our neighborhood? I assume that's what some people will say. We're going to have to, there's going to be costs associated with dealing with some of these steps we have to take. Is CRAC going to help us figure out how to pay for it, get grants, get some money from the town for us? I guess we'll just wait and see if that's what they ask us.
Maybe we let them ask that. Okay, guys, are we all set?
What are you doing with these these extra ones? Are you going to not include them?
Leah?
I was just going to ask that. Do you guys want to include any of these or keep it these 4? What are your biggest concerns today and in the future? Are you currently implementing coastal resilience measures? From your perspective, how can Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee and the CRP help your neighborhood? Do you want to keep it like that, or do you want to add any of these in?
Peter?
I would say we keep what we have.
Yeah, I think
Anyone
short
else?
is better.
Do you agree? Or do you see things in this list that we could use?
I would
Oh, yeah,
vote for
we got-
brevity. I would lose them personally. I mean, the idea that it's someone in the general public has actually read the Coastal Resilience Plan is difficult for me to believe, but maybe I'm overly skeptical. I just don't know that this adds a lot. There is one thought that occurred to me here, which is the relocation question. I know that probably very few people are currently relocating, but there is a question above, higher up on the list, where we ask, are you changing hardscaping? Well, there's another one, which is, are you currently relocating? Which is a coastal resilience measure. And that way you can capture that. That's the most extreme of the coastal resilience measures, but hey, let's put it out there. And I think with that, you could get rid of all the other questions. That's my personal feeling.
Maybe make it raising or relocating.
No, because we already have raising your home
Right,
in,
first
in
one.
A, and we also have it up here in F in number 1. So I
Okay,
don't think we need to be redundant with that.
okay.
I think we're all set. I think unless anyone says anything, oh, Sarah?
Sorry, I think these questions are great, but I just wanted to ask if to associate these with any particular neighborhood, what other demographic information should we collect? Like, what neighborhood are you in? Are you a seasonal or year-round resident? Do you own or do you rent? Because I know that like the homeowners association is homeowners, but then if people rent their home, like sometimes the person that living there, I don't know what information why that would be valuable necessary. Obviously, like if you're an owner, you can make a decision about your property. If you're a renter, you can't. If you're a renter, you probably shouldn't go to the homeowners association meeting, but you know, I just want to make sure when we get this out there, what other information we want to that would be beneficial.
Maybe we get their address, but you know, it's gonna go to homeowners. They may have tenants, but these are homeowners within homeowners associations, so they're the members of those associations, right?
I think we shouldn't ask for address because that might be confrontation. People might not want to put exactly who they are, but even if they don't
Okay.
want to identify themselves, knowing what neighborhood they're in would be really important, obviously, if you know, to get this. And so maybe that's like there's like the demographic information. But I'm also interested to personally to know how much time people spend in the homes because it qualifies the answers for what they do and don't know. Maybe that's not important information. Maybe that's not something we're going to act on. But I find it useful to know if we, you know, people want to know how they're getting or like what information they already have or what they're worried about.
So maybe we ask them what area association you're part of. Are you seasonal or year round? Like that. Don't ask them their address. But don't make that a question. Make that a, you know, can you fill this out up top type of thing. Like a little box.
Yeah, or usually at the end of a survey is where you ask the demographic information, but that's
Okay.
whatever.
All right. You've probably done more than I have, so. And so what other demographics do we want to ask them? Christie?
Peter, it's unrelated to this question. I've got a different one, so I'll hold off till you fulfill this one.
Okay, just to let you guys know, we got 20 minutes till noon. And we have one more big item, but it won't take that long, hopefully. I don't know, can we ask them, or do you have waterfront property? Is that a good thing to know? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so Christie, go ahead.
Yeah, just a little fine tune on question 3. I think with implementing, I think most homeowners probably have not done anything. Implementing is a little presumptuous, so I would say maybe are you currently planning / implementing coastal resiliency measures?
Okay. Okay, do we have any more demographics? Or are we good and moving on? Again, you can send Leah suggestions between now and the next meeting? Okay, I guess we're moving on. Thanks for the editing help, Leah. Number 7, wetland regulation update by Conservation Commission Representative Tim Brain. Go ahead, Tim.
I'm going to make this very brief, partly because it's still very much in process. And partly because if we get into a lot of questions, I won't be able to answer them because I'm too new to it. But I'm sure you all know Concom's purpose is to protect coasts and wetlands, beaches, dunes, salt marshes, etc. Concom can set the regulations. There are state guidelines, but Concom can set specific local regulations depending on conditions. And what we do on a regular basis is basically issue permits and give guidance for any work done within 100-foot buffer zone of a coast or a wetland. So I'm sure you all know that, but Leah asked me to explain it. Updating process. I don't know the answer to when it was done last time. I think it was about 10 years ago, but I'm not entirely sure. I know that the commissioners have been working on this, I'm told, for 3 years. There was a sort of semi-final list posted maybe in February this year. That's posted online. I'm sure some of you have seen it. We met a couple of weeks ago to discuss and agreed to do a little bit more research. There will be probably, Jeff Carlson was saying, we probably need 2 more public meetings. There are a lot of things public's concerned about. So our guess is it'll probably be at least 2 months before we vote on a final set of regulation changes. Just some highlights of the current list. There are a lot of changes to definitions, some to just refine them and some to try to update the science. For example, there's more language about accounting for coastal resilience and so on. There's a discussion of bulkheads, and the focus is mainly on you're not allowed to put in a new bulkhead. They're not legal, but the bulkheads that are grandfathered in can be repaired. The emphasis in this plan and in the revised regulations is to strengthen the mandate to alternatives analysis, and in particular, an emphasis on using living shorelines as a solution instead of bulkheads where they're applicable. Pools is a big topic. As it's basically about not putting pools in coastal flood areas in order to keep chemicals out of the harbor, or out of the water. There's a slight change in erosion rate calculation methods, and honestly, don't ask me to explain this, but to make them a little bit more current, there's some formula that you use that they're going to refine. And then the big one is there's a proposal to extend the 25-foot and the 50-foot buffer zones another 25 feet. There's a lot of debate about both the evidence for doing that, the science for doing that, and also about how many properties would be affected and so on. So the public feedback is basically this. We got letters from Nantucket Builders Association and the Nantucket Association of Real Estate Brokers. The concerns are about regulation of pools, increasing the size of the buffer zones and the science behind that, how those increases will affect existing structures. Will structures be grandfathered? Will work on existing structures require compliance with the new buffer zones? and what happens if a new buffer zone makes a lot unbuildable. So those are there's more details in these letters, but those are the basic ideas. At our last meeting, Jeff said he was going to look to see if there's any way of determining the number of properties affected. And also he was going to look to see if any other towns have increased these buffer zones. Is going to try and find out if there's any evidence that those increases made any difference in the wildlife situation. So that's basically it. I'll take any questions, but I probably can't answer them. So it'll be a couple months before this is resolved, I think. And I think there's going to be a lot of input from the brokers and builders. So.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
And so if you guys read the very rough draft letter that I wrote, I really just wrote that to make it thought provoking. I looked at the changes and tried to anticipate what we might think would be issues with the changes related to coastal resiliency, but the letter is in no way something that's going out anytime soon. It's just the jumping off point. And for that reason, I've instructed Tim to not share that with the Conservation Commission, because it's not a letter that could be placed in front of the public until we've all decided that it works and modified it. And so we obviously have a couple of months, 2-3 months before the Concom comes to what they think they're going to put forward. So then that's the time between now and then we track what they're doing, and we get regular updates from Tim on what's going on. And then as we get closer to them, being right there saying we're done, then we perfect our letter and send it out. So
right. I have not showed it to anybody. So
okay.
About that.
All right. So any questions from anybody or any comments? Gary.
Yes, well, let me say that, Peter, I completely disagree with you. I think that it's one of the priorities in the CRP was to update the existing regulations to prevent the continual building near the shorelines. And I was very pleased to see that the Conservation Commission's proposal was to increase the buffer zone from 25 to 50 feet, which is no big deal. And I'm not surprised at all that the real estate industry and the greedy real estate brokers want to make sure they can sell every blessed piece of property, no matter how close to the shore it is or how dangerous the flooding is. But mostly I was shocked to read this in the newspaper last week. Let me read you what I read. Tim Brain, the newest member of the commission, said he felt there needed to be pressing reason before increasing buffer zones. It would affect a lot of people, so there needs to be a clear reason to do it. And I haven't seen that yet. There needs to be more work on this, he said. So what have we been doing then? Tim hasn't been on the commission for our committee for 2.5 years like the rest of us have. He hasn't gone through all of this work. We've done all of this work. And one of these is an important priority is to update the regulations. And here we have a member of our group saying we haven't done enough work on it. If we haven't done enough work on it, then it'll never get done. So I'm very disappointed. And I think we should, my view is that we ought to send a letter now to the commission saying, we support the efforts. We know you have a little more work to do, but we do support the efforts to increase the buffer zones. That's my view.
Okay,
I can make a motion to that effect if somebody else agrees with me.
Okay, Gary, I think when he was saying we haven't done enough work on it, he wasn't referring to the crack. I think Tim was referring to the Concom. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes, and
let me continue that thought. He wasn't bashing us.
No.
He wasn't bashing the Concom. He's just explaining that we haven't done enough work on it to say that we finalized it. So, Gary's gonna get up, Tim's gonna get up to speed with us. And he'll read the plan and he'll understand it better. And as he comes along, he'll be up to speed. So he's not the one to blame here. Anyway, go ahead, Tim.
What I was saying was, I have read a lot of the, I've been given a lot of stuff to read about it. At the time that I said that, I hadn't seen anything that I felt was conclusive proof that 25 feet would make a difference. But I haven't finished reading all this stuff, and I probably made a comment a little prematurely, but I certainly wasn't criticizing this committee.
Okay, Jen.
Thanks, Peter. I think us writing a letter in support of the changes that the Concom is working on with the regulations is really important. And I think your letter is a good start, but I would like at least a chance until, and I do think getting it out sooner rather than later is good, but I'd like at least a chance before the next meeting to read through and connect your letter to the pieces and regulations that you mentioned, because I just hadn't had a chance to make those connections myself.
I said what I said about waiting because, it doesn't mean we can't write another letter, but we can say we support you in general with what you're doing now, and then as we move along, those things may change, and then we write another letter. I was just thinking that we wanted to wait to see the final product. That's where my head was at. Like I said, the letter is in no way written in stone. So go ahead, Sarah.
Thanks. Yeah, my question was about timeline too. I think that I would support and doing maybe 2 letters. So one that's generalized now, because I think we can say like what the coastal resiliency plan says. I think we've done that before, like that. But I think coming a few times from us, because I think as Tim said and as Gary said, there's a lot of opposition to certain aspects of the discussion is going to be brought up by many different people. And so the more support is my assumption, and I could be wrong, but I think the more support over time of saying like, or reiterating that changes and to the regulations are called for in the coastal resiliency plan. I think my assumption is that would be useful to at least get another, if all they're ever hearing is from opposition, then that's the information they're getting at those meetings and taking that into account. So I understand we can't have the letter saying like we fully support everything that's in it, because we have, if they're not, the regulation changes aren't finalized, but I think that we can put something out there, but that's sort of my assumption.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Doug, go ahead.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I would echo Sarah's comments. I think my homework when I first saw your draft was to go back to the CRP and reacquaint myself with pages 101 and 102. What did the CRP say with regard to wetlands regulations and why? And I think perhaps our letter to Concom could simply serve to remind not only the commissioners at Concom, but also the broader general public, why are they doing this? They're not doing it because they're trying to be difficult. They're doing it because it's a wise strategic move for the health of the island. And I think that's the role that we can play as advisors to Concom, is there is very legitimate reason, there's a lot of wisdom to pursuing the path they're on. And maybe to the point about, well, it isn't soup yet. Okay, fair. But let's not let the soup be shaped by those who are their sole goal is to prevent any meaningful change. I think we can serve as a bit of a counterweight to that and applaud their efforts and encourage them to continue down this path. I hope that helps. Thanks.
Okay, does anyone have any more comments? Okay, so do we want to take between now and the 24th read the letter again, come back with how we're gonna revise it, and then revise it like we did with that other item, and come up with a letter that I can make. That make a letter that I can perfect. Does that sound good?
Okay.
And, okay, all right, good. We'll do that. All right. So moving on, approval of minutes from September 26, 2023. Has everyone read them?
Move approval.
Okay, Matt moves approval. Do I have a second?
Second,
Seconded by Jen Carberg. Roll call vote. Doug Rose,
Aye.
Jen Carberg,
aye.
Tim Brain,
Aye.
Gary Beller,
Aye.
Joanna Roach,
Aye.
Sarah Boyce,
Hi.
Christy Kickham,
Aye.
Matt Fee.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, thanks, everyone. New Business Committee and Natural Resources Department reports from Planning Board, Conservation Commission, Harbor and Shelf Advisory Board, Select Board Advisory Committee on Non-Voting Taxpayers, and other committee members. Do any of you guys have reports for us? Leah?
I have some very exciting news. We got the CZM grant for the first phase of the downtown neighborhood flood barrier. We just met with CZM last week, and yeah, they accepted it. So we'll start moving that forward. The process is the select board have to accept it on their October 18th meeting, and then Libby signs the grant agreement, and we can put it out for procurement because we'll be hiring a consultant to help with that. So you guys will help a lot with the education and outreach part of it. It's a 2-year grant, so we'll have a lot of work to do for that. And again, it's the area between Steamship or Steamboat Wharf and Straight Wharf, and looking at what we're going to do with pretty much Easy Street. Are we going to elevate the road? Are we going to, put some nature-based solutions in there? The consultant will come up with 4 alternatives, and then through community engagement, we will all pick one alternative, which will then go to 30% design. So that's really exciting. And I had another, I can't remember what my other,
Coast Snap update.
yes. So the Coast Snap update is we're going to put it at the end of Hummock Pond Road, and we are just waiting for the state through the MyCoast app to have Coast Snap on the MyCoast app. So pretty much you take the picture using the cradle on the post at the end of Hummock Pond Road to help citizen science way to help kind of monitor shoreline changes. And then that picture gets uploaded to the MyCoast app, so we can create a timeline. And also we're working with 2 scientists from Hui, and they're going to be able to do volumetrics of that area as well. So that's really exciting. And then a third thing is tomorrow, for the remainder of the week, I'll be at the National Coastal Conference, which is in Providence, Rhode Island. So I'm not presenting, but I'm just there to listen to all the talks. There's a ton of talks about coastal resilience efforts and information. So I'll bring that info back to you guys.
Excellent. Thanks, Leah. Matt? And then Gary.
Leah and Vince presented at the select board last week, did a great job. One of the topics was coastal resiliency districts. I pushed hard for staff and the town council to look at how can we utilize betterments in the near term, because we can, in my opinion, we cannot wait for 3, 4, 5 years for a town meeting, town meeting to approve something, and then 10 or 20 years for the state to approve something. So if there's anything that we can do now that gives us the ability to use existing betterments to move some of these projects forward, we should. I think it was well received. Time will tell. It may be back to us, at some point, but I think, the urgency and the need to not wait for the state or, town meeting vote that the state approves or a home rule petition that the state approves, both of those are, sort of, we have to move quicker than that. So thank you.
Great, that's good news, Matt. Thanks for the report. Gary?
I have a question for Leah. I'm thrilled that we got this grant from the state. One of the things that I hope they'll be able to do in terms of the research they're doing, Matt sent you and you sent to us a little squib about this new process where instead of a fixed barrier, there was this floating barrier in the harbor, which a few communities have just started to use, and it would be a less costly alternative for closing the harbor than the plan we're talking about. So I hope that in this process, they will be looking into that new development as well. And thank you for sending it around to us.
Thanks, Gary. Leah?
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, I'll share that with whoever the consultant company is that the town ends up hiring to see if that would, work for us. Matt reminded me, if you didn't see the select board meeting last week, so town council is going to look into betterments and see what he just said, see what we can do with it. And then through consensus, the select board decided to move forward with your recommendations with in tandem doing a bylaw, writing a bylaw and also a home rule petition. So that should be on the agenda at town meeting for 2024. So your document is going to be kind of like the foundational base for the legal counsel to write the bylaw and the home rule petition. So good work, everyone.
Excellent. Thanks, Leah. Okay. So next meeting is October 24th on Zoom. If no one's got anything else and we're a little bit over, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Moved by Matt Fee. I'll take a second.
Second.
Second by Gary Beller. Roll call vote. Gary Beller.
Aye.
Doug Rose.
Aye.
Jen Carberg.
Aye.
Tim Brain.
Aye.
Joanna Roach.
Aye.
Sarah Boyce.
Aye.
Christy Kickham.
Aye.
Matt Fee.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you guys for a great meeting. We got a lot done. Appreciate all the comments and the suggestions and getting it done. All right. See you in 2 weeks or before then, I'm sure.